Hi guys, I'm Perpetually Paperback. Well, I'm Irene. This is Perpetually Paperback, and today I'm going to be doing a book review on Evie Dunmore's A Rogue of One's Own. Alright guys, I was so excited about this one. This was the first book I've ever pre-ordered, which is crazy. I'm not usually someone that has to read the book right as soon as it comes out. I'm glad I did though. So this is book 2 of the League of Extraordinary Women series. The first one was Bringing Down the Duke. I have it, I just don't have it with me, I lent it out. This is the second installment. So it's a group of 4 friends, and I believe she's going to do a story for each of them. So this one was hefty. It was about 400 pages, and it is a historical romance. So this book follows Lady Lucy as she tries to obtain the stock for this very popular women's publication, basically, with the intention that she is going to push her suffragist movement through these pages to the women of England. And part of the deal is that they're trying to amend the Married Women's Property Act. During all this, she is encountered by her childhood rival, who is Tristan Valentine. He just got back from the war, is a decorated veteran, and they grew up together. The book actually opens up with a scene when they're quite young, where they encounter each other. It's a little bit of an awkward scene for me, but it makes sense, because you understand that they knew each other growing up, and they've always somewhat had a history. This is definitely an enemy to lovers trope. I honestly actually really liked this book. It's definitely historical fiction, or it's historical romance, but definitely more emphasis on the historical than on the romance. The reason I say this is her second book. The first book was Bringing Down the Duke, and that one follows Annabelle and the Duke of Montgomery. This one is where that one kind of had like class struggles. This one was much more, they're both in the ton, and it's mostly where, honestly, this one was Lucy kind of getting over herself. She has very strong ideals and feels that she cannot. This one is very, very, very centered around the women's suffrage movement, because Lady Lucy is kind of the captain of it. She's the person she's the coordinator. She is the one coordinating all of these parties. She's also in society, so she has enough clout to be able to purchase the publishing company and have the influence of gentle ladies that can fund her endeavors, essentially. So she is the person that puts all these things together. She often stays up late writing letters and correspondence and just basically listens to the women, to the point where the letters are actually resulting in a report that shows that the issues of marriage aren't just lower class issues. They affect ladies in high society as well. And that's actually one of the big themes in this book, where they talk about the issues that gentle ladies have to deal with and the nobility has to deal with, because ultimately it affects everyone. And there's actually really interesting you see a lot of the ways that women are affected. And she has Lady Lucy. It really follows Lady Lucy in this one. And I am talking mostly about her because honestly, Tristan doesn't really come up that much. In her first one, there was a lot of back and forth. You got a lot of dual perspective. So you would see, like, Annabelle was talking and then you'd automatically see Montgomery. This one was very much not like that. You do get Tristan's perspective from time to time, but it's kind of few and far between, I would say, as you're reading the book. So one of the big things to be aware of is don't go into this one, I would say, expecting a full-on romance. This is very much more a historical fiction, I would say, than a romance. It just has some romance scenes throughout. Because this is an enemies to lovers trope, they really spend a good part of it, and actually I would say more Lucy spends a good part of it, really disliking Tristan in the first half. But more than anything, she's actually somewhat indifferent to him, I would say, because they grew up together and he was just kind of like, in the way that little boys and girls do when you aren't sure what your feelings are, he would tease her and be kind of mean to her, so she just always found him to be a general nuisance and honestly not very bright. He actually has a more interesting story as far as why he does some of the things he does. Lucy is more, I feel that these things are something that I want to make my life's work. I feel like these things are very important for the women to have vote, for women to be able to own property in their own right, as opposed to when they get married. So the Women's Property Act was, if a woman got married in England, all of her possessions, all of her belongings belonged to her husband. Her well-being, essentially, was determined by her husband. And that comes up with the relationship that both Lucy and Tristan's moms have together, is a big one in this one. You very much see the effects of the nobility through their eyes. Or, well, actually, you get both. You get their experience through the eyes of the children, so Lucy and Tristan when they're younger, and then you also get their perception as they're older and maybe certain things that they didn't understand about their parents when they were younger. So you get those situations. Now, Tristan's father is generally not a very nice man, and he has tried to control Tristan in a lot of things. So most of the decisions that he makes are based off his father's stern hand or contradicting his father's wishes. And in that, you basically get, he's actually a really nice, I really liked him as a character. I thought he was really beautiful. He writes poetry. It's lovely. And that's not a spoiler, you know, pretty much from the get-go. He's just like that. It's really nice. The conflict as far as the relationship goes was totally believable. And I think it gave their characters a little bit more depth. Other than that, it was just kind of their whole relationship kind of happens behind closed doors and really is the last third of the book. Yeah, I actually did not have any problem with the third act on this one. I thought it worked really well, especially because the book was so long and really focused so much on Lucy's perception of herself in a relationship, or just in general, how she perceives herself based on the way that others perceive her. And that kind of was an impediment to being able to have any kind of relationship, really. It was just sweet, though. I think, so the actual, like, the smut scenes were good. I don't think this is one that you should go into expecting that, because it's definitely not that. I thought it was great. It was really well written. It was super informative. I really like that. So anytime that the history is somewhat prevalent or like you learn a lot in it, I really liked it. Also, on an enemies to lovers trope, I thought the relationship actually developed really nicely. It was definitely a slow burn, but I think it was a really worth it one. Anyway, that was A Rogue of One's Own by Evie Dunmore. I hope you read it and let me know what you think. I've heard some people not be super into it, but I think one of the ways to preface that is just understand that it is definitely much more a historical fiction than it is a romance. If you read it, let me know what your thoughts were. All right, I'll see you guys for the next one. Bye.